G'day guys, I'm just about to give Dan Sullivan a call, author of the book Fundamental Electrical Troubleshooting, to put to him some of the questions that you've asked me to ask him. So let's just get him on the phone. G'day Dan.
Yeah.
It's Dale from OLCT. How are you?
I'm good. You? How are you?
Good. Hey, I've put together a list of questions that owners of the Fundamental Electrical Troubleshooting book have asked me to submit to you.
Okay.
So if you've got a couple of minutes, I'll just run through them if that's all right.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so this one's from Ben in New South Wales, and he's obviously noticed that your entire book's painstakingly handwritten, letter by letter. So he wanted to know exactly how long did it take you to write the book from start to finish?
Well, it was an ongoing process, sort of a work in progress. I started it as handouts, really. I didn't have any materials to use, and the book that I was using was good, but it wasn't good enough. So I would essentially just take questions that people had asked me in class and go back to the hotel room when I was away in class, and in the hotel room at night I would just write handouts. And slowly over the years I got 40, 50 of them or so, and then believe it or not, the printer told me that it would be less expensive to print them in a book with more pages than it would to do it the way I was doing it, handout by handout. So I just sat down and in 1 week I put together about another 60 pages, and then had the first version, and then added another 60 or 70 pages, and then had the second version. And I'm actually working on some revisions now. So all in all, it's been the entire 10 or 11 years that I've been at this thing. So it's a never-ending process. As best I can estimate, it will never end. But for now, we're where we are, and I'll just keep adding pages as people keep asking questions.
Okay, so the book was written over, what was it, 10 or 11 years, did you say?
Yeah, in fits and spurts. The first group of handouts were written probably over 3 or 4 years, and then I did a marathon writing session and ended up with about 120 pages. And then that was probably in '06 or so, and then in 2010, I think, or 2009 maybe, I can't remember, I did another update session because I had a lot more people that asked me a lot more questions, and I've learned a lot more, and I wanted to throw it in there. So that was probably the third big push, and then since then it's been sitting, and then I've got more that I've been working on here in the last year or so.
Yeah, right. Okay, Mark in Victoria asks, what's been the greatest transformation you've seen from the skills of an owner of your book?
Of the who of the book? What?
So what's been the greatest change you've seen in someone's skills from owning the book?
Confidence, without the doubt. I think what I've learned, because a teacher should never stop learning, and there's no greater form of flattery for a teacher than a student to come back and teach them something. So I always hope that what I do will result in someone figuring something out and coming back and telling me, because that just means that I've done my job. So that's very important. But the single most noticeable thing is people are just more confident, and they don't have the same sort of trepidation. They don't have the same reluctance that they might have otherwise. And my unfailing belief is that success breeds success, and the succeed, you have to be willing to make an effort. But to make an effort, you really need to have courage. But very often, the only way to really gain courage is to benefit from success. And so, somewhere along the way, you just got to jump in and do it. And I think that if a person reads the book, then they're going to have more confidence in themselves, and they'll be a little more courageous to go out and try something. And when it succeeds and when it works, then they're willing to take another step and grow and become more capable. And all I can really do is just provide the insight and hopefully provide the motivation that a person can use to go out and do it themselves, because it's really up to the individual. And these guys are all incredibly smart. They need to be given a chance to experience being smart, and that's pretty much the way I hope the book comes across.
Yeah. Okay. So Clive in the Northern Territory asks, how did you formulate the voltmeter only approach to electrical fault finding?
I just taught a class, people who paid their own way to come, and they were willing to sit down and put some video, take some stuff on video for me. And it was funny because I was thinking about it. I was teaching in the very same classroom that I was teaching in when I had what was easily one of the most significant revelations that I've ever had as a teacher. And I'm always learning. I mean, it's never believe that I know it all. I know what I know, and more importantly, I know what I don't know. But I was literally in just my normal teaching, and somebody asked a series of questions, and that's why questions are so important. Is because it provides a perspective on things that you've never really experienced before, and it forces a teacher to get out of his rut, and that's what happens. And somebody asked me one question, and somebody asked me another question, and then, 2 or 3 questions later, someone finally said, well, what does it really mean if you see 12 volts? And without even thinking about it, but having never said it before in my lifetime, I said, well, it means you don't have an open or short. And that was the moment when everything just kind of changed, in the sense that it really brought everything together into sharp focus. Now, I will have to say this, that 1997, as early as 97, a student in North Dakota at a coal mine made a comment, and this guy couldn't read. They told me he couldn't read. You'll need to help him out a little bit. And he never said a word. This was back when it was a 5-day class. He never said a word the whole week until Thursday. And I made a comment on the board, and I just made a reference, and I said, here's this, and here's that. And I was explaining ghost voltage and what it was, but I wasn't using it at the time. And he said, well, if this is this and this is that, then that means you see a short. And I just looked at him and was stunned, because he was right, and it never even crossed my mind. And his name was Kent Glass, and he worked at a coal mine in North Dakota. I remember exactly where he was sitting, second row back on the right, next to the aisle. And it was amazing. So that, in conjunction with a number of other things, progressively over the years developed into that theory / method, which, as it happens, works. So I put the pieces together, but other people handed me the pieces. So it was a truly amazing sort of journey, and it's been truly inspiring to have such intelligent people ask me these questions. It gives me the benefit of making these sort of correlations. So it's been, it hasn't really just been me. I mean, it's been other people in the classroom who've asked questions that have made all this possible too.
Yeah. Okay. The next one is, so Gary in Queensland asks, during your time as a technician, did you practice the electrical fault finding approach that you provide in your book?
No, did not. Nope, not at all. In fact, I was going by rote. I was doing exactly what I was taught by the people who taught me, who were taught by the people who taught them. and I did the whole E equals IR in school, and I did everything that I really don't think should be done anymore is what I did, and I don't think I was that successful. I wasn't as successful as I could have been, and just as an example, I went back to the airport where I worked several months ago and was asked to come down by the fellow that I used to work with, who now runs the place, because they had an airplane that had been down for a great many hours, and the ghost voltage worked immediately. Ghost and zero voltage worked instantly because I hooked up my double voltmeter leads, one to the battery and one to the alternator, because the complaint was alternator wouldn't charge and several other things. Battery voltage was 12 point something, and when I flipped the switch to the alternator, it read 000. And I immediately, without even thinking about it, said, "Steve, you have a short." And the wire was only 4 feet long, and it was shielded, and it ends up that somebody had put the shielding onto a straight 12-volt terminal on the alternator, and the shielding was actually a load, and it was rubbing through, burning through, and was on the verge of arcing through from the main 4-gauge cable straight to the engine mount directly above the fuel line. And it was simply by looking at the meter saying 000 that I went, "You have a short," and we found it. And it was, I don't say this to be insulting, but they had the airplane on the ground for 30-something hours, and I found the fault in less than 30 seconds. So the method works, and I just take credit for trusting it. That's really what I do. It works.
Okay. Simon in Queensland asks, what resources have you used to hone your skill to this level?
Oh, well, making mistakes, I tell my students, don't be afraid to fail, but on a greater note, don't be afraid to succeed. And I think, in terms of the actual materials, I don't want to give the wrong impression, but everything I'm doing, I've derived almost exclusively from the three basic laws of Ohm's law, Kirchhoff's law, and Lenz's law. Pulse width modulation is Ohm's law. The three faults are Ohm's law. Voltage drop and corrosion is Kirchhoff's law. Diodes on coils and the like is Lenz's law. And what I've been able to do more than anything else is not necessarily hone my skills, because the skills are fairly simple. Reading a meter is not that tough, and reading the schematic is not that tough once you know how to do it. But the problem is really applying what you know to a logical process. And the most important part of the logical process is to stop thinking like a mechanic and start thinking like an electrician. And to realize that the question you need to be asking yourself over and over and over again is, what's working right? Because, the way that I explain it is that if it was working a millisecond before it stopped working, what could possibly happen to an electrical system in a millisecond that would cause the thing to shut down? And the answer is something incredibly small. And it's always something small, and it's mostly in the wiring. And if you go out there and you just assume it's in the wiring in some form or fashion, and you assume it's going to be small, then the only difference between being a genius and feeling like an idiot is that the idiot goes out thinking that it's going to be something massive, and when it is something small, he's embarrassed. But when the guy goes out knowing it's going to be something small, when he figures out that's what it is, he's a genius. So, the real difference between being successful and unsuccessful is more in what your expectations are initially than any particular skill. The skills are important, but it's the application of the skills and understanding the context and understanding the methodology that's just as important, if not more important.
Okay, perfect. Martin in New South Wales has asked, is there an FET2 on the horizon?
I just finished electric power generation. I still have 2 pages to write. I spilled some ink on an airplane for size cabin, a lot more comes out than you expect. So I kind of goofed up a couple of pages, but that book is 90% finished and should be ready to go to print here in another 30 days or less. The only other books that I plan on writing are a little bit more general in the sense that I think there's a book to be written on methodology and philosophy of, being a mechanic and what does it mean. And I know it sounds kind of goofy, but doing what we do is very important, and the world doesn't necessarily see us as important as we are. And I think a lot of people fail to make the most of the opportunities they have because they don't have the confidence in their abilities, and they don't seem to feel as though they're as appreciated as you should be. But I think we need to address that. That's certainly not a technical book, but I think it's important. But the only other one that I was thinking of doing was on PLCs, because PLCs are sufficiently unique enough, I think, that a short book on that would probably be helpful. But I'm probably just going to keep adding to the FET book is what I'm going to probably do. It's probably just going to keep getting bigger and bigger.
That's a much smarter idea. Okay, and finally, Justin in Queensland has asked, who's the girl who regularly appears in your book?
Wouldn't he like to know? Well, let's just say that she's real. She's a real person, and she is a young lady who, long before I was ever married, was someone that I was friends with, and her father was a mechanic, and her name is Gina, and she was always just a tool girl. So when I started writing the book, that's kind of found its way in. And no, you can't have her phone number, but you can assume for the sake of argument that she's equally as cute, if not cuter, than I was able to make her in the book. But she did make it very clear that she likes red. So if guys are going to, color in and do coloring in the book, she likes red. So make sure that everybody, puts her in the red dresses and stuff like that. But she was very specific about that. But she is a real person, and she's someone that's been a friend of mine for a very long time, and that's about all I can really say about that. So.
All right, well, that brings us to the end, Dan. Any final words of wisdom you want to send out to the people who own your book or are considering it?
Well, I first of all, I'm flattered and humbled by the folks who are using it. I get emails fairly regularly, and I really do believe that the book has value, but the only real value it has, I think, is giving guys credit for their intellect and giving them confidence to go out there and do what they're capable of doing. I'm a big believer, frankly, in the fact that we're all, technicians, mechanics, whatever. I prefer mechanics, but that's fine. We're very intelligent people, and we shouldn't ever doubt that. And I think that that when a person goes out and succeeds electrically, there's really no better feeling than when you sort it out, you analyze it, you see the answer, you have total faith in your assessment, you go out, you find it, you fix it, and you know it's never coming back. And that's a really powerful, very, very meaningful sort of experience. And I hope that everybody has that, because that's what I think we all need. And the only other really critical aspect in this whole process is to understand that the diagnostic process in the electrical world is the only time you ever learn. Okay, you don't learn during the repair. There's no learning in replacing a butt splice. There's no learning in cleaning a switch contact. There's no learning in repairing a wire. The learning comes from the analysis of the circuit and reading the schematic and redrawing the circuit and thinking the problem through and learning the wire numbers and learning the patterns and becoming, more and more comfortable understanding what you work on and how it works. And that only occurs during the diagnostic. So if a person short circuits the diagnostic, rushing to the repair, they don't understand, because if the guy in the bay next to you gets 6 hours to do a transmission that's a mechanical transmission that involves nuts and bolts, why wouldn't I get the same 6 hours to do an electronic transmission that just quit? And we have to understand that there's nothing that says that electrical work has to be done any faster than mechanical work. And just because you don't know the answer up front doesn't mean that you won't know the answer, but you'll never know the answer if you don't take the time to figure it out. So I really encourage people to take the time to think the problem through, slow down, analyze the circuit, and understand what they're working on before they go out there and try to find it. It's always going to be one of the three faults. It's going to be an open, short, and high resistance. It's got to be one of those three, and it's going to be small. So keeping that in mind will be, I think, a large part of a person's success if they can kind of keep their wits about them and maintain calm and go out there and just do the job right.
Yeah. They're very wise words, Dan. It feels good getting it right, and you need to allow yourself enough time to ensure that you can learn through the process.
Well, it's an amazing thing to ask a person how much time they'll waste going back and forth to the parts counter or back and forth to the toolbox or going from one side of the vehicle to the other side of the vehicle to get a jumper wire out to do. A person can spend 2 hours just doing nothing, and they never think twice about it. But ask them to read a schematic for an hour and they freak out.
Yeah.
And you have to learn not to do that. You have to understand time. You have to focus on understanding that 3 hours is 3 hours. And if you spend 2 hours reading and 15 minutes fixing it, then that's less than 3 hours. And the more you do it, the faster you go. But if you never make that initial commitment to believing in this process, to believe that the schematic is the first step, then you never get faster. So if I can add to what I said earlier, or one of the other questions, the willingness and ability, my willingness and ability to basically tell everybody to just go take a hike, leave me alone, give me the book, and I'll get you an answer, and I don't take crap from anybody for it, and I don't, nobody's gonna take crap from anybody mechanically. If this was a mechanical question, everybody would stand up and fight, fight to the end, defending the way of doing it mechanically. But if it's electrical, people don't do that, and you should. You should defend the time that you take. You should defend the process you use. You should defend the right that you have to get it right. And you should tell people who ask you what's wrong and how long, go away. Just go away. Don't want to talk to you. Don't care. I'll get it done. And when you get it done and you're finished and it's going and fixed, everyone's going to forget about the time. And next time it's going to just take less time, and it's going to get quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker. And then sooner or later you won't have to do it as much. It's just that's the only way that it'll work.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, well that's great, Dan. Thanks for your time, and I'll let you get your weekend underway.
No problem. I'm sorry I missed your call earlier. How's everybody doing?
Yeah, no, everything's good. So I'm just putting these questions that some of the owners of your book in Australia have requested of me. So I'll send you a link to the video, Dan.
Okay.
All right, perfect.